Hi, welcome to Northrop Grumman. Let me show you what we do. Are you ready? This is where we push the laws of physics. Always something new in here. This is where we're creating the future of connectivity, from the bottom of the ocean to the expanse of space. This is where we put massive power into the microscopic. That's the future of supercomputing. You want to see engineering imitating life? This is where we teach machines to go where humans can't. And this is where we engineer tomorrow's solutions in space. I love being up here. You see, the technology we make is what makes the impossible possible. And it doesn't stop there.
HII delivers the most powerful naval ships ever built. That same innovation and dedication is applied to executing missions in complex and contested environments. We are leading the next evolution of national defense, the data evolution. That means anticipating emerging threats with C5ISR capabilities that enable a deep understanding of the environment across a wide range of assets. And with AI and big data platform capabilities that support threat analysis and cyber operations at an unprecedented data scale. Preparing warfighters for virtually every conceivable situation they may face with live, virtual, constructive, synthetic training environments critical to the all-domain order of battle. Making vast expanses of the Earth accessible for defense, research, and commerce, on land, under the seas, in the air, and in space. With world-leading autonomy and the largest family of UUVs in every class, making transoceanic missions possible. Ensuring the world's most capable and resilient platforms are always at the ready, on the sea, under the sea, and ashore. Maintaining a safe, secure, and effective strategic weapons stockpile and executing complex environmental remediation through a legacy of disciplined nuclear operations supporting the Department of Energy's mission priorities. We do all of this with a talented, diverse, and innovative team that is driven to solve our customers' most complex challenges. HII, solving our nation's critical security needs by delivering the hard stuff done right around the globe.
As a reminder, keep your electronic devices turned on, but set them to silent. This way you can text or email your questions for our guest speakers to the address on the screen, askme@gmail.com. AFCEA would like to recognize CompTIA, GAAC, and CertNexus, as well as AFCEA preferred partners, American Public University, SANS Institute, and Western Governors University for helping us bring necessary training sessions and certification opportunities to our members and attendees. Please welcome to the stage Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, U.S. Army retired, Executive Vice President, AFCEA International.
Well, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to day 2 of TechNet Augusta. And I got to start off the day by thanking Carasoft for that coffee out there this morning. I know I said it last night, but I know several of you needed that coffee this morning, so thank you. What a fantastic first day we had. We had Lieutenant General Gervais on a TRADOC perspective, started off yesterday morning. Major General Eubank on the Signal Foundation in support of multi-domain operations. And we had some of the Army's most senior NCOs on a panel up here talking about recruitment, retention, modernization, and readiness to support the unified network. And we ended the day with a joint PEO panel on how the Army is building out our data-centric capabilities, highlighting what they need from our mission partners in industry. And in case you missed any of that, you can find a recap of everything that happened yesterday, including audio and video recordings and copies of the PowerPoint presentations that we're allowed to release on the Signal Events coverage page. The link is accessible through the conference website, and please bookmark it because it'll be updated throughout the conference and then after the conference. We have another great day ahead of us today, and we're going to start it off real strong right now with our keynote speaker this morning. So at this time, please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Grant Hagan, President of HII's Cyber, EW, and Space Business, to introduce our guest speaker.
Welcome to the ARCYBER Vision keynote session at TechNet Augusta. I'm Grant Hagan, President of Cyber, EW, and Space at HII, and we are a proud sponsor of TechNet Augusta. HII provides integrated solutions that enable today's connected all-domain force. These include full-spectrum cyber platforms and tools, EW engineering and expertise, big data processing and analytics, and other mission-critical capabilities in the defense and federal solutions space. This morning, I have the honor and the privilege of introducing our opening keynote speaker on behalf of AFCEA International. She's a familiar presence at AFCEA events and is a highly engaged leader who comes from a family that understands service, a calling that she has carried forth throughout her distinguished military career. A veteran of multiple overseas combat operations, she has commanded units at all levels of the U.S. Army, has served in roles with U.S. Cyber Command, U.S. Army Cyber Command, U.S. Southern Command, and the White House Communications Agency, and has a deep breadth of cybersecurity expertise. As we move into a world where cyber warfare is constantly evolving, our nation's success will be assured in part by creative and visionary leaders like today's keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Commanding General of the U.S. Army Cyber Command, Lieutenant General Maria Barrett.
All right, I want to thank Grant for that warm welcome. I want to know who that person is he was talking about. I also want to thank AFCEA for inviting me to speak at this keynote in Boston, Massachusetts. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the weather out there. This is not Augusta in August. If I think about last year, I think we were all, even though there were half of the people in here, we were all pretty warm. And it's a little bit different today. But thank you for the opportunity, since taking over 90 days ago, to kind of talk about where I see Army Cyber going and also some of where we've been. This is the second time that I've had a chance to stand in this room and talk to AFCEA since taking command 90 days ago. I had the privilege to address the AFCEA CERTS participants, and I shared my thoughts about what the workforce of the future looked like, and really the importance of placing people first as a part of any talent management strategy in this domain. And so today I'm going to focus my discussion on the future of Army Cyber Command. And as with anything we do in cyber, this is a first draft. And it is subject to change by things that inform a vision, such as advances in technology, experimentation of emerging concepts and pilots, lessons learned from operations, and of course, the ever-changing threat. So, Army Cyber today. Next slide, please. Over the past year, whether it is in support of our designated combatant commands or providing support to Army commanders forward, Army Cyber remains significantly engaged in operations in every theater across the globe. That's 16,000 military civilian contractors arrayed across the globe, largely concentrated at Fort Gordon and Fort Huachuca, but from the homeland all the way to the front lines. And they're executing our 5 mission threads: operate and defend the Army's networks, provide attack and influence options for senior leaders, and lastly, added this year, informing the Joint Force through our analysis of traditional intelligence and publicly available information, which I'll talk a little bit more later. We project our force physically and virtually to set the theater and set the globe. So some of the accomplishments this past year. It goes without saying that our most valuable resource is our people, and we have and will continue to focus on this line of effort. From a talent management standpoint, the talent pipeline, I can't stress enough, is absolutely vital to the success of this mission. Where does that pipeline start for Army Cyber? It starts at JROTC. We cannot rely on the traditional recruiting models to fill this pipeline for us. So we've put some emphasis in JROTC cyber pilot programs, helping to increase the culture of cyber in the next generation of our leaders. And if those cadets eventually come into the Army, that's awesome. And if they go in a different direction, I'm okay with that too, because having cyber savvy individuals who go on to government, serve in our local communities, or even go out to industry is still vital to this nation. This year we had our first direct commission of a lieutenant colonel. And this following year, we've got one in progress where we will assess a colonel directly into our ranks. And the significance of this is we will gain educated, talented, highly specialized individuals and keep Army Cyber on the cutting edge of innovation. And in the category of retaining our best, for those who have decided that active duty is not it, they put in their time and they're moving on. We've initiated the Tailored Strategic Retention Program, a program designed to take individuals and help them make that transition to industry, but also place them into our reserve component, hopefully into one of the formations that also does the cyber mission directly in support of U.S. Cyber Command, and makes that transition. It helps them, it helps our readiness, it helps us retain our talent, and there is a very high return on investment when you consider the time that it takes to train some of these individuals and the specialized training that comes with this. And what we have to spend on this program, it's marginal. It helps the total force because it's training they don't have to pay for. It is absolutely a win-win. The numbers couldn't be more stunning. I asked my team, I said, could you do the math on this? I won't do the math in public. They came up with over 700% return on investment for just a basic cyber operator. So make no mistake, people and readiness will remain my #1 priority at every turn throughout my tenure. In the Training and Operations Department, we do our own training, which I talked a little bit about just now, but we're also out there helping train others. In support of the Army Commanders Forward, exercises such as Defender Pacific, RIMPAC, Defender Europe, all of those and our support to those commanders help educate those theaters in terms of the application of cyber, EW, and IO in their theaters. And it trains us on which TTPs work and where we can improve our support for the future. Additionally, we've supported 26 combat training center rotations by Army Cyber Red Teams, contributing to the world-class environment by mimicking adversarial tactics, techniques, and procedures seen on Army networks. Also this past year, we've continued to mature the persistent cyber training environment. This automated environment to test effects, test our defenses against known attacks, and to help train individual and collective readiness across the force. I believe there's a booth for PCT. I urge you to stop by and see what it is and how it helps serve our force and how we can continue to enrich it with additional content. But this has been absolutely pivotal to us in operations over the last year, specifically defensive operations where we can conduct rehearsals of how a defensive maneuver might help repel an adversary presence in our network. For operations, our forces are answering the call for the nation, continuously deployed since 2016. There have been multiple urgent requests for support from defensive to offensive operations, sensing and understanding the information environment, and just as important, informing commanders of what is happening. If I think, Pat, to where we were last year, everything was about the Afghanistan retrograde. And across our lines of effort, operate, defend, attack, and influence, we were engaged across every mission thread. Flash forward to supporting Europe and the operations in Ukraine. We were engaged in operate, defend, attack, influence, and now inform. And we'll continue to support emerging needs. With supporting these efforts, we understand where it is that we need to surge our support as an organization. So last year, General Fogarty, from within the resources of Army Cyber, reconfigured how we do intelligence support to those mission threads by forming the Cyber MI group. This is the first of its kind, focused on our mission set, and it blends classical intelligence, commercial threat intelligence, and the information gleaned from our operations by our cybersecurity forces and defensive and offensive forces, and then putting that all together to inform not only me, but commanders in the field. We have fielded a fully operational expeditionary cyber team as part of the cyber warfare battalion that was stood up. And this element fuses EW, Cyber, IO, and no sooner was it built, we pushed it out. I don't even think we got to FOC before we pushed it out the door in support of operations in Europe. And these ECTs are designed for tactical level integration of Cyber, IO, and EW as required. And we're growing more to provide the necessary expeditionary support for multi-domain operations for the commanders in the field. On the Cyber Mission Force side of the house, we were directed to grow 2 more teams this year, and so those are in build in support of the Geographic Combatant Command's missions and the priorities of the NDS. This will be followed by an additional 2 teams that will be growing this year as well. And then lastly, the 60th Offensive Cyber Operations Battalion. This used to be a signal battalion, converted to 60th OCO Battalion, and this battalion reflects the importance of having an element dedicated to operating and defending Army Cyber's complex systems and networks, which are our weapon system. And the last major change in the past year, as recent as March, is entering into a charter with USASOC and SMDC, a partnership to work together to take our mission threads, what they do, the unique capabilities at SMDC, and work on efforts together. 3 functional ASCCs, if you will, 3 operational units with unique authorities and capabilities. And we see the globe. We look at things across, not from a regional context. If we would take a look at just defensive, Our adversaries don't know any boundaries. They operate across the globe. And so we all come at these things with a trans-regional look. And what is it that we could do and put together to compete? And we know that putting our capabilities together, we can end up with an effect that is greater than the parts. I don't have to talk to you about some of the challenges that we're facing in our world. I've mentioned competition. This triad of SMDC, USASOC, and ARCYBER will be powerful in competing in this sphere. Our aim is to deliver more options to commanders in the field, already integrated, and we've done some of this work already to great effect. Competition, crisis, and conflict. Let's talk about the adversary for a minute. So just some general quick observations to foot stomp what I'm seeing. We keep seeing that threshold for employment get lower. If I think about what I've listened here in past years, get lower and lower and lower. At the high end, we saw the SolarWinds attack. We also saw the rapid Log4j. Log4j got used a lot. Okay, that's better than the 4-syllable word I have. But all kidding aside, how does this inform how we think about the ubiquitous use of open source libraries in our architectures? Both compromises affected systems across the globe, impacting businesses, private users, academia, and governments. And then we can't forget the criminal not-for-profit operations, or even more recently, the hacktivists with national aspirations and goals such as KillNet. This is the world we're operating in. Next slide. It's fair to say that our networks and cyber systems are no longer additive to our ability to wage war, but are the center of gravity and key vulnerability in the U.S.'s ability to wage war with our partners and allies. The network is the weapon system of the 21st century Army, and data is the precision ammunition for that weapon system. So this vision of being a premier data-centric force for our Army, that is the overarching concept. It cuts across all of the mission threads that I'm going to talk about today. Next slide. From operating and defending our warfighting networks and systems, both attributable and non-attributable, across blue, gray, and red space. From the DoD&A, end-to-end, tactical to strategic in everything that we do, seeing and adjusting with agility for disruptions in this contested and congested environment. ARCYBER, through Network Enterprise Technology Command, manages the network for 1 million users. And if ARCYBER was a Fortune 500 company, it would be third in size behind Walmart and Amazon, but ahead of Home Depot and FedEx combined. That's what General Eubank does every day. And that's only growing as we converge networks and bring them all under this umbrella so we can see what is going on and respond at the speed and scale at which we need to for multi-domain operations. Defending operational networks and weapon systems and assigned partner network environments. This is a full-time job, too, of rapidly identifying, isolating, and remediating, hardening and securing our networks, and achieving integrated deterrence through a cost imposition for those who seek to exploit or limit our freedom of maneuver in cyberspace. We'll continue to operate and defend while rapidly modernizing the critical elements of our network. I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more from General Morrison about unified network, when he speaks, but I will tell you this collective unity of effort between the CIO, Headquarters DA, CCOE, ASALT, AMC, AFC, Army Cyber, and many other partners on this effort is absolutely incredible. We've had no less than 5 sessions over the past year to talk about and move the critical initiatives that are essential to Army 2030. Not everything. The essential initiatives, modernization initiatives that are absolutely vital to our warfighter, end to end. I'm not talking about enterprise, I'm not talking about tactical. It is what the critical initiatives are to ensure that they work end to end. Army Cyber and NetCom are a key supporting partner to the Army's Unified Network Operations Plan. Army Cyber leads Line of Effort 3, which is securing and the survivability of the network. That in and of itself, some incredible things happening this year. Authorizing official reform, for one. We acknowledge that the pace of change and complexity in securing our networks have outpaced, in many cases, the capacity of organizations, and a new construct is needed. We are supporting key modernization and initiatives that improve our security from zero trust, comply to connect, identity management, and endpoint security to tactical endpoints, reinforcing that recognition that end-to-end solutions are required and we cannot afford blind spots. With that comes some organizational changes as well. We will make Regional Cyber Center CONUS a global regional cyber center and make that central to the 5 regions as we further down this path. There is attack and inform that are done by our offensive teams and also by the first IO. Much of that is enabled also, all 4 lines of effort are enabled by our big data analytics platform, operationally employed, that gives me key insights. This is cloud enabled, we're applying machine learning, we're supporting all mission threads through this platform, and it's led by a wicked smart team. So as I conclude, I want to talk about one more thing as we bring all of these mission threads together. Watching Army Cyber's role in ongoing operations, I'm keenly aware that Army Cyber plays a key role in setting the regional theaters. Physically, in the work that NetCom does, or placing an expeditionary cyber team forward, or a cyber protection team, or virtually, cyber protection teams attack and influence can be done remotely. Setting Army Cyber means setting regional theaters and setting the globe. It's necessary for us to pull all of our data from tactical sensors forward, from all of the resources, and inform the Army commanders, everything being fused together on the Information Operations Center floor. We'll develop more options for geographic combatant commanders, flexible response options to compete and deter aggression, and prepare for crisis and the possibility for conflict when deterrence fails. The big idea that General Fogarty stood here last year and presented to you was the idea of information advantage, a condition when the force holds the initiative in terms of the relevant actor behavior, situational understanding, and decision-making through all military capabilities. Those information advantage activities that enable decision-making, it's protecting friendly information, educating domestic audiences, informing and influencing international audiences, and conducting information warfare when necessary. To be clear, information advantage is not I/O, and I/O is not information advantage. Not all, but many of the things that I describe here today are currently being executed by ARCYBER. So the core of this big idea that General Fogarty launched was to integrate influence in cyberspace operations, electronic warfare, information operations, cyber effects operations, to create substantially amplified effects. And so we are, every day, in those operations from Afghanistan to Ukraine, bringing those together. The big idea is applicable across all echelons. We can do this from the ECT all the way up to the CMT. And now we can do it with partners if now you add in the triad of USASOC and SMDC. But bottom line, behind people in readiness, the priority will be over the next 2 years to pilot and experiment how we currently deliver information advantage activities to the operational commander forward. There is obviously plenty of work left, but we are committed to the Army's goal of winning. Winning matters, Army strong, and I look forward to your questions. If there's time.
Thank you so much. Our first question, as the commander of the ARCYBER Command, what is the single issue or challenge that might keep you up at night?
Yeah, so I hinted at it with Log4j. I think we've got to, when we take a look at some of the threats that are out there now, we can't just get past them and go, done. I think we have to look a little broader. So this idea of, and I don't want to get the single thing, I don't want you to take away that the single thing is open source libraries, because that would be wrong. I could be wrong tomorrow with the next thing that comes out. But we've got to think bigger than just defending Department of Defense networks. That's my current responsibility. But I think things like that inform how I engage with industry, how I think about how we bring things onto our network, and whether or not all the environment by which we deliver capabilities has changed. I think we're going to have to make some changes based on that threat. And any other threat that comes along, I think it would take too long to learn those lessons.
Our next question, what do you see as ARCYBER's biggest contributions to the triad of space, cyber, and USOC?
I would say probably the biggest contribution was, one, being able to take a fusion of traditional intelligence and what we were seeing in publicly available information in order to inform the commander forward of what we were seeing. We were seeing some things in the electromagnetic spectrum. We were seeing things in the information environment, and we were able to provide that back very quickly because of the big data platform and the CMIG, that intelligence group, being able to turn that pretty quickly. I have been absolutely impressed with how quickly they can take an RFI from myself or from Cyber Command on a particular subject and pull that information together into a report. You might think that serialized reporting takes a long time. These guys are turning this pretty quick. Pretty valuable.
What is the timeline for RCC US to become a global RCC?
General Eubank's laughing. Yeah, we'll probably do it over the next year and a half when you start taking a look at some of the personnel placements. Right, because we've got to put an 06 in charge of that thing. But, operations from a theater level immediately won't change. We still operate 5 regional RCCs, of which CONUS is one. But with bringing Army 365 and running it centrally out of RCC CONUS and looking at more things like that coming to fruition, as we start to take down some of the barriers between the theaters that hey, this is the house we inherited, right? We walked into a 1910 house with a lot of walls and small doorways. I watch a lot of HGTV. It's time for the open concept. And so RCC CONUS is really got to be the global synchronizer of those other RCCs.
What is your cloud strategy way forward? Defense of the cloud, use of the cloud towards information advantage?
Yes. So we're already using the cloud in conjunction with our big data platform to take a significant amount of data that we're operating, defensive and offensive and information types of data, again, across all of the mission threads that I talked about. So we are leveraging that. So we're going to use it operationally. We are going to defend it. The Cyber Protection Brigade has done a significant amount of work on developing the TTPs for doing that. So with any emerging technology, we're going to launch those guys out and say, hey, if this was attacked, how would we defend it? How would we censor it? Is it sufficient just what the vendor has stood up for us? So I think, and we're going to turn all of that information back out to the field when we develop it. They've already done some of the work. So I don't think cloud is just I'm using it and defend. It's all of it. We're going to do both.
Historically, it has been problematic to get a true and holistic skills inventory of soldiers. How do we conquer that problem in order to internally contact and recruit those hidden gems?
So I think there are parts of IPSA that are going to help us with that. I think internal to Army Cyber, we're also looking at how do we keep inventory of who's got the specific training and experience. I don't think we have a complete answer for that yet. And I will tell you that talent management in this field is an incredibly hands-on, leader business thing. I can't tell you, the Sergeant Major, he's talking to everybody out there. He finds somebody that has a unique skill. And if they're in the wrong position and not being optimized, we're scooping them up. It has to be like that because these folks are so incredibly talented and we've got to put their talent to work.
You mentioned the RCC CONUS being global and key to the other RCCs. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I can. I've always said, as the NETCOM commander, as I've been coaching RCC commanders, is that the RCCs are regionally focused but globally integrated. And that briefs really well until I have to pick up the phone and talk to an RCC commander and say, what are you doing? And so they do. I want them to be regionally focused on how things are going over there, what the focus is. Hey, there's going to be an exercise and a lot of stuff is going to be coming into the regional hub node and they're working that. And I need them to be out front and looking at that piece. But I also need them to be cognizant of what the priorities are in terms of defending and securing the network and what we're seeing. And if they have a problem with any of that, because sometimes we have to operate really quickly and isolate things. And so we have to have that dialogue between the tower and them. And I got a couple vignettes in my head. They're not vignettes, they're real world examples. But I don't think I'm going to go into them here in this audience. You do need to have this synchronized across the globe. If we're trying to push out something that, like print nightmare, for example, right? That we had a task to do that fast. And we've got to be talking to each other. And so having somebody who can synchronize that among the 5 is pretty important.
And our last question we have time for this morning is, how do you see our partner countries' readiness to collaborate with us in the level they need to be and not to slow us down?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For the combatant commands we support, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, and NORTHCOM. NORTHCOM's a little bit different. So I'll take the 2, AFRICOM and CENTCOM. This is part of something that we assess is where our partners are at. And that then informs what our key leader engagements or building partner capacity initiatives might be as we lay out the campaign plan, or we inform the combatant commands campaign plan in that space. So that's a really good question, because the partners are absolutely vital. As you know, I think if you go to any of the combatant commands, they're all going to tell you they're going to fight. Most of them, I think I'm hearing now, is they're going to fight on the mission partner environment. And so partner capacity is pretty darn important. Thank you.
Please remain seated as we ask Lieutenant General Mark Bowman, U.S. Army retired, and Major General Paul Stanton to join General Barrett on the stage. At this time, we ask that Colonel Mike Warlick, U.S. Marine Corps retired, to come to the stage for a special presentation. The intent of the Brevet Colonel Award is to recognize those non-government, civilians, or uniformed members of the armed forces other than those of the Signal Regiment who have made significant contributions over a period of time to the regiment or the association. Specifically, such individuals could be federal, state, or local government officials, military members from a different department or branch, industry partners, or community leaders deserving special recognition. The justification for this award is based primarily on their long-term relationship with the regiment. To all signaliers, know ye that Colonel Mike Warlick, U.S. MC retired, is among those select individuals who have been supporters and contributors to the enhancement of the United States Army Signal Corps and is therefore dedicated as a brevet colonel.
Is it in there? There it is. It's okay. Well rehearsed.
I got to go to the mic just for a second. I saw General Fredenberg coming up on stage, but I can't help myself. To publicly recognize Colonel Retired Mike Warlick as a brevet colonel in the U.S. Army Signal Regiment could not be more appropriate. I'm seeing some head nods. The amount of contribution and the significance of Mike's dedication to our U.S. Army mission as it has materialized through his support to AFCEA is immeasurable. When you look to your left and your right and you look at TechNet Augusta specifically and selfishly, he has grown this to what it is through hard work, dedication, and commitment to our U.S. Army values, albeit a retired Marine. Mike's retiring, and so no better opportunity at TechNet Augusta for us to honor Mike and just truly say thank you. And so one more resounding round of applause for Colonel Warlick, please.
I don't like the R word. And also, I'm more than humbled. I didn't expect this, and I didn't expect this crowd to be engaged with this morning, but I can tell you one thing. What my role has been is to try to put together a program and make some sense of what the topics are of the year. And I'm a thinker and come up with ideas. There's 60-plus people on the AFCEA staff that make this happen in our office. And then there's chapters, the chapter here in Augusta. I cannot tell you the contributions that this chapter has made, and I don't want to compare them to other chapters of AFCEA because they're all good, but this one knows how to do it right, and they are just extraordinary. And I cannot say enough about the Cyber Center of Excellence, and Ed Buckner in particular, but a whole team of people that work for General Stanton who really work with us. And this is a process that literally goes on for a year, but it's intense for about 4 months leading up to where you are today. When I heard and saw that crowd outside yesterday morning, everybody was upset. Well, I wasn't upset. I wish we could have had a seat for all of them. We're working with the city and the hotel here to expand this facility. I mean, we're just beginning to hit the home run here. But honestly, let me just get back to this. This means so much to me. I didn't expect it. I appreciate it. I appreciate your support. And I just hope you have a great week and you come back next August. And if you don't, then they need to call me back and I'll come back. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, General Barrett, for joining us here today with ARCYBER's vision. And in lieu of a speaker gift, a donation is going to be made on your behalf to the Fort Gordon Historical Museum Society. I'm all choked up. Mike, thank you. This is great to see. Very deserving of this recognition. You have been part, incognito of the Signal Corps Regimental Association for years, working in the background and making things happen. So it's an honor for me to be here and see you get presented that fantastic award. And thank you for your contributions. It is definitely an honor to be working with the best. Thanks. Our next session in this room is going to be a presentation on the collaborative partner environment presented by U.S. Central Command. That session is going to be followed by a presentation from Lieutenant General Xavier Brunson, Commanding General, 1st Corps, and that's going to begin at 1:30. In the meantime, there's going to be numerous breakout sessions, including the continuation of the PEO and PM4 program over the Georgia Cyber Center. And then you can make sure you can see the sessions on the board here, but they're all in the app, so you can choose which one you want to go to. Please enjoy the rest of your morning, and we'll meet all back here at noon. Thank you very much.